All right, hey everybody, we are back here. We're going to talk now. Imagine I'm thinking of it from putting myself in your shoes. If I owned a Tundra right now, with this recall of 100,000 is coming around, what would I do? How would I feel? What would be do I dump the truck? Do I hang on to it? Do I wait and see what Toyota's going to do? What would be my game plan here that I would personally do? So I laid it all out here for you. We're going to dive into it. I'm going to give you the options. I'm going to show you some statistics and compare it to other things that have happened to other manufacturers. We're going to dive into this video here pretty good. It's probably not going to be real short, but it's going to be pretty informative for you. Hopefully answering the question, what should you do, or give you ideas about what you can do. That is my goal for this. So we know that the Tundra recall, part of the Lexus one as well too, it's reaching over 100,000 vehicles. Engines are being recalled. We know that there's some issues, and we also know that they're being pretty shady about a lot of things that Toyota's doing. They're not fixing them right with the short block options. The short blocks that they're putting in them are still failing. We know that they're bypassing the hybrid because it's technically not a safety recall for the hybrid, where they're recalling these engines under a safety factor because they could actually stall on you going down the road and then you can get taken out by another vehicle. But the hybrid one, they're not recalling because it will not stop on the road. If the engine cuts out, the hybrid, the electric motor, will actually continue to move you to a safe off-the-road place. So that's why they're not including the hybrid. Very shady, okay? But don't think for a second Toyota is the only one that does this shady stuff, okay? They all do, and they've all had major engine problems, which we're going to show you. We're also going to see what those engine problems did to that company and where they stood and what they are, because it's going to help you figure out what you want to do. A lot's happening, okay, and it's happening quick. We also now know that Toyota knew about this back since March of 2022 and started studying these engines with problems since 2022, yet they still, even now in 2024, 2.5 years later, they can't give us a solid answer other than metal debris is what they're coming up with still, but they have to recall 100,000 of these. So I understand if I owned a Tundra right now, I'd be furious. I would be absolutely just straight up furious, mad as can be, disappointed, upset. You know, this would be, I'm looking for another video to just run here in the background for you, where there was one, but I would be livid. I would be just, you know, absolutely bummed out, disgusted, and upset, and mad about this whole entire thing and how it's going. It would not sit well with me either. So I feel your pain. So what do you do now? You feel that you've been taken advantage of by a very powerful company that you can't do anything about, a company that you trusted for reliability, that you paid a tremendous amount of money for your vehicle. The payment is a ridiculous amount. Everything about this hurts tremendously, and I get it. I totally get it. What would I do if I was in your position? And hopefully I don't upset or offend anybody with this, because this is just my opinion, but here's some thoughts and some things to think about. So basically you boil down to 3 options. 1, dump the truck. Okay, dump it. Will you get a loss? I don't know. We'll take a look at that. We'll dive into it and see. I don't really think it'll be as bad as you think if you do it the right way, but and we'll talk about why. But you could dump the truck. You could hang on to it and wait till you see what Toyota decides they're going to do with your particular truck, and that may fix it for you or sit well with you with the fix they give you or the results they give you. Remember, we are talking about a less than 1% failure rate of these trucks, okay? So that means that statistically yours should be fine. It should be fine. But if it gives you still going to leave a bad taste in your mouth, what do you do then? Do you dump it then? Do you stick around? Do you hope that they give you the right motor? Do you let them fix it and see if it fails again? All these are legit questions, and nobody wants you to have to go through this, and everybody feels for you. Every single YouTube video you watch on this, we feel bad for this situation, but you are not alone. Okay, every single manufacturer has done this, which I will show you, has been through this same kind of scenario. Some handled it better than others, but every single one of them has these kind of issues on a pretty regular basis throughout the last decade. So you are not alone in this. Many people have been in your shoes. It's sad that it's Toyota that's doing it to you, because Toyota's been so reliable for so many years because they make old and archaic and proven design trucks that are underpowered, and they're great. They were. And they were proven. But now we're in a whole new world of Toyota, and it's a lot different. So let's dive into this. Let's take a look in here. I just talked for 4 minutes trying to hopefully give you some insight. Let's look in and see what other stuff has happened here on here. So GM, let's cover some other engine options or problems, okay? Recent ones. Right here, GM to replace 2023 Silverado 2.7 liter engines produced with cracked blocks, okay? But the difference between Toyota and GM is GM automatically extended the warranty, and they gave them a brand new engine, okay? Where is it? They said it in here somewhere. I'm looking for where that is. The article's here. You can look it up so that I don't waste your time on this, but it is somewhere in here, and it does say manufacturer instruct right here. See, to fix the issue, GM instructed dealers to replace the engines on all affected units. Okay, done. Problem solved. Game over. Never an issue. Fix the issue that happened with the cracked blocks, which in this case was a casting defect, hot core pin casting defect, but they replaced all the engines. Done. Fixed. Problem solved. Every single one of them replaced. What about the 2.7 on the Colorado engine? Same thing. Cracked blocks. Done. Solved. Replaced and fixed. They did the same. They did the same exact thing here too. All engines under the skid, but they did the same thing on this too. It's in here somewhere. And I'm not going to waste your time as I search for it, but customer said how not clear affected. Right here. Okay, in order to fix this issue, dealers are instructed to replace the entire engine. Done. Problem solved. But GM had, okay, in 2023, four truck lines: the Sierras, the Colorados, the Canyons, and the Silverados with cracked engine blocks. Okay, but they fixed it right. But that was catastrophic. People were freaking out about that. So remember that when we get to the end of this here, when we cover into some of these interesting things you're not thinking about or that you've been misled on. All right, so what about Ford? Ford, the 3.5, we got tons of this stuff on here. Bad years for it. They had all kinds of problems. 2011, 14 had all kinds of issues. 17 and 19, phaser issues. They had, there's just been so many problems with it. The EcoBoost stuff here. Ford's just been run through the ringer. Here you go. Here's more on the 2.7 EcoBoost first gen stuff that they had on it when this first came out. I owned every generation, and I owned it almost every year for 10 straight years of Ford F-150s. And the 2.7 was amazing. I had so many problems with that thing, but when it first came out, in 2015, but here we go. You know, you got all sorts of them here. They had a plastic oil pan leaking, no big deal, but the problems they had with carbon deposits on there from being direct injection, the head gasket failures were tremendous, spark plug and ignition coil failures. Mine was the turbocharger issues. What I had, turbos went out on it too often, coolant system leaks. I mean, this thing, a timing chain problem, throttle body malfunctions. This thing was just a mess. Look at this, EGR failures, fuel pump failures. This thing just went on and on with issues. And it was there and it was known, okay? It was out there. What about this one here? We look at here. The Bronco was one of the craziest ones ever, okay? Because the Bronco came out. Remember, this thing had bad valves, and it was dropping valves, valve springs on it and clamps too. And this thing was dropping valves into the cylinder and grenading the whole entire motor, and it was doing it a lot. And then to top it off, because of part shortages and all that kind of stuff, some of these guys were waiting almost 6 months to get their vehicle back, to get it replaced and get it back, get their engine fixed. And they were going out at like 10,000 miles. Boom, engine grenades. Okay, it was happening everywhere with the Broncos. So we know all this stuff was going on. Ram 1500, they had a bunch of issues over the things here, right here even. Dodge Ram, years to avoid. 2003 had a bunch of problems, 10 to 13 did. 14, 15, and 16 did. The Hemi tick, all the kind of stuff that you could think of. The cam phaser issues, you name it, it had it all. They were all significant motor problems, okay, that they had there. The Pentastar. Okay, everybody thinks the Jeep is, it's junk. Jeep it's actually one of the most reliable motors made today. This is from MotorReviewer.com, a well-respected, company here. But, this one had some very big issues too, okay? Especially when in 2011, it came out in 2009, but in 2011 to 2013, it was considered bad because it had a 0.5% of failure rate on this thing, on these 3.6 Pentastars. But cylinder head failure, rocker arm problems, cooling and oiling issues, the cams, the lifters, everything you could think of on this thing was a problem and caused all sorts of issues for it at a very low mile, somewhere in the 30 to 50,000 mile range. They were having major significant engine problems. They fixed it, and then they got it solved, and it's taken care of. Right here, it's time tested well enough now. Okay, after they did that, it took them 3 years to fix this. So is a 3.6 liter Pentastar reliable today? Summing it up, we can say the Pentastar 3.6 reliability is way above average. It's time tested well enough, and over 10 million Pentastar engines were produced to date. Despite some of the issues early on, the 3.6 V6 is a great, durable, and one of the most reliable engines available on the market today. With proper maintenance, the 3.6 engine longevity is around 250 to 300,000 miles. There are even a few cases of them lasting up to 500,000 miles. Okay, but the point we're taking here is that this motor had the worst beginning of any other motor. Crashes, bombs, everything you could think of going wrong with this motor did in the beginning for the first 3 years. Now, 10 years later, it is one of the most reliable motors made today. Yet people still don't think it is. Okay, if I had a nickel for every time somebody tells me Jeep is junk and that the Pentastar is bad and everybody I know has a horrible Jeep experience story, you hear it over and over again. But like I said, the reality is here. All vehicles have problems. So we know that. Let's dive into this. Let's look at this. So if we know all these trucks have issues, how have their sales been? So let's dive into this. This is for Ford Authority, and this is on the Bronco. Okay, this is the Bronco, which came out in the USA in 2021. Here's their sales numbers we're seeing right here. Okay, if we look at this, see this right here, this 801. We see all these numbers here, this kind of stuff. This is when it first launched, the first year it was out. During that time, it saw a tremendous amount of problems. Did that affect it for the next year in 2022? When we knew that these things, it was all over the internet, all over YouTube, everywhere. Broncos failing, Broncos going down, people waiting months to get their engines through. Engines are grenading and went off. Did it affect any sales at all during the next few years, 2022, 2023? Look at these numbers. Okay, zero effect. They sold like hotcakes, no problems whatsoever. Okay, they did really good. What about the F-150? During the 15, 16, and 17 were the worst years for that the EcoBoost. Okay, both of them, the 2.7 and the 3.5, major problems. Okay, so we know 15 is when it was happening, 16 was real bad, 17 was bad. Did that affect their sales? Look at the sales numbers here at 18. Okay, I can't highlight this for some reason. Sorry, can't help you there on that. But look at 18, 19, 20 compared to 60, it didn't affect them not even one bit. As we look at this, from here to here, okay, very little change. An increase from 16 to 17, very little change. It was actually happening throughout the entire year. Couple thousand difference, nothing major. So it wasn't a big deal for them. What about for Jeep? We look at Jeep. Here's Jeep Wrangler sales year after year. Okay, we know that the 2011, 2012 was, and 13 were the bad ones. 14 kicked in. Look at, even with all of those problems happening, look at the sales numbers for these Jeep Wranglers, okay, each of these years. Okay, they didn't go down. This didn't hurt them. This didn't affect them, yet everybody said it would. It did, and this is why nobody can buy one. Okay, it's a Wrangler. It's not an everyday vehicle. But look at the numbers, how they increased even with all of that happening. What does that mean for us at you Toyota guys? It means that if you want to dump the truck, you're probably, whatever you hear on the internet about how sales are dropping and declining, you're probably going to be okay if you want to hang on to this for a little bit. You're not going to lose the value that people think they are. Right now, with all the hype on YouTube, it might be that way, but in another month or 2 or 3, when this blows over, when this blows over a little bit and tones down, or we find out what the fix is and what Toyota is going to do to resolve it, this may not be that big of an issue as far as you being able to unload that truck. Okay, it might not be as bad as you think it is. The sky is not falling, is what I'm showing you. So let's take a look at what's out there used right now. What do we have? What's available right now on the market. Okay, everybody's like, oh my God, there's so many Tundras for sale. There's used Tundras everywhere. People are dumping them left and right. 2022s, 2023s, everybody's getting rid of them. Do you think you missed the boat if you want to dump yours? I don't think you did. If you want out of it, get out of it. You're probably not going to do too bad. Trade-in might hurt you a little bit because the Toyota dealers know they still have to deal with this vehicle under the recall, so they know they got to deal with it either way, so they might give you a little less money for it, but it doesn't mean that you can't sell it privately. And remember, it's only something, I don't remember what it is, but something like 8% of people that actually research on YouTube when they buy a new vehicle. Okay, so most of the world doesn't even know this stuff is going on. Let's take a look deeper into this. And most of the people that do, they just hear the simple stuff. They hear Toyota's got a recall on 100,000 Tundras and Lexuses, and they found metal debris in the engine, and Toyota's going to recall all them, and it's going to be fixed, and everything is perfect. It's all they want to hear. It's all they care about. They want to move on to learning about the Kardashians and watching golf and all that kind of stuff and doing whatever they do. They don't care about this stuff. So keep that in mind. So what are we going to do here as far as this? How's it looking? Let's go here. We go to autotrader.com. We type in used Toyota Tundras for sale. I went nationwide in my search radius. Show nationwide 2022 to 2024 any trim of the Tundra. How many do we got? We have 3,400 of them. Oh, we got 3,400 Tundras. I'll never sell mine. There's so many of them used out there. People are dumping them like crazy. Again, don't get caught up in all this stuff, okay? If you want out of your truck, you're going to be okay getting out of it. And as we look at the prices on this, they're holding pretty solid, okay? They're not dying off like you think they are. They're doing pretty good. They're used trucks, but they're still doing pretty dang good here, okay? So it's not as bad as it seems. Now, but out of curiosity, I'm curious. So we got 3,400 results for Toyota Tundras for sale, used, 2022 to 2024. 3,400 of them. How's that compared to everything else? Well, we did the same exact thing for Ford F-150. Nationwide, used, 2022 to 2024, 13,000. Okay, we got 13,309 versus right here, 3,400 versus 13,000 F-150s. There's a lot more F-150s. It would be harder to sell an F-150 right now than it would to unload a Tundra. And F-150s don't have a ton of problems right now. They got a lot of recalls, but not too many problems. But it would be harder to unload an F-150 right now than it would a Tundra because of demand. How's it for everything else? Let's look at a Chevy Silverado. Okay, I went to just the Silverado, not even counting the Sierras, but just the Silverado 1500. Same thing, nationwide, 22s to 24s. 80,000 of them. What do you think is going to have better resale or better value for you to unload right now? A 22 Tundra or a 22 Silverado when there's 3,000 Tundras in the entire country for sale used and there's 80,000 Silverado 1500s. Pretty crazy, isn't it? One more. How about this one? Because we hear this all the time, okay? Ram is the worst. There's so many Rams out there. Rams are unbelievable. Ram is the biggest junk stuff in the world. Again, take all of it with a grain of salt. Right now, if we look at the same listing here, nationwide, 2022 to 2024, Ram 1500, 8,000. So let's think about that. We only got 8,000 Rams, 2022 Rams for sale used, okay? We have 80,000 Silverados. We have 13,000 F-150s, only 3,000 Tundras. So if you want to dump the Tundra and you don't want to keep it because you don't want to deal with this and it doesn't make you feel good, according to what we're seeing statistically, you should be okay and you should be able to get your money. Maybe you're going to have to shop around to some different Toyota dealers, or you might have to go to some other dealers if you're going to a different brand or something, but you should do okay. If you have the option to sell it outright yourself, and get out of it that way rather than do a trade-in, you should be in good shape. It would also be worth checking Carvana and things like that too, even Car Edge and their selling system and all these things. But the sky is not falling on you. Statistically, it's at a 1% failure rate, so that means that statistically your truck doesn't even have a problem. If your truck does have a problem, you have options to get out of this. The sky is not falling down on you. Does this suck really bad for you? Yes, it does, and we feel very bad, but again, many of us have lived through all these other things and been there and experienced them, and they're no fun, but you will come out of this okay at the end. That's the way it usually works. So you have all these different considerations and options, and I don't think it's going to, it sucks, but it's not life altering. It's not a horrible, horrible thing, and you are not alone. Okay, I know it's bad that it happened to you, but you are not alone. And as you can see here, you have options. Okay, you have things that you can do. So hopefully this video just tries to help ease that pain a little bit, which is what I want to do. I feel for what you're going through, and I don't want you suffering, and I don't want you thinking about your vehicle as a ticking time bomb, and that there's no recourse, and there's no solution, and there's no nothing. This will all be forgotten very soon. Toyota will come out with a fix one way or the other that'll get it solved. If you want to wait it out, you're going to be in good shape. If you don't, you want to dump it and move on, you can do that today and get by pretty dang well, I'm expecting. Now, you might go to one dealership and you might say, no, you're going to lose this much money. You're going to lose a little bit of money. But like I said, I don't think the hit is as hard if you shop around for the right dealer and just don't take one at face value, because there's going to be shyster dealers out there. But as we see by these results, there's a demand for these trucks, and there's a lot of room for a lot more of them to hit the market. Okay, they're not as many of them out there as everybody says there is in the used world. So, and I'm not knocking any other YouTuber. They're doing incredible jobs covering this. I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm just trying to give you, as a Tundra owner, options for what might be the best for you, and some real world statistics that we're seeing today, right now, June 9th, and let it put it into perspective for you. Hope you enjoyed the video, and feel free to put comments down below. Let me know what you're planning on doing if you own one of these, or how you're feeling, or any of that stuff. Like I said, I feel horrible for you. You shouldn't have to go through this, but you are not alone in going through it, and many of us have been there before too. So thanks for watching.